Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast, where we highlight the agents who are built for this business, those who know what it means to rise through adversity and show up relentlessly for their clients. Today's guest grew up surrounded by real estate, a father who was a custom home builder, a mother managing a large community, and a brother in the mortgage world. That kind of foundation doesn't just teach you the business, it ingrains it in your DNA. With over a decade of experience in Northeast Florida, she's carved out a reputation as a fierce advocate for her clients. Her success is no accident. A tough childhood shaped her into someone who builds deep relationships, operates with heart, and never backs down when it's time to deliver results. She's been named one of the top 500 agents in the regions of the Jack's Real Producers and consistently ranks as a top producer in her brokerage. Driven by passion, kindness, and a tenacious commitment to doing the right by the people she serves. Clients call her personable, resourceful, determined, and someone who truly fights for them. She loves what she does, and it shows in every transaction. Let's welcome Delaney Henderson to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. Little chat GPT there. It does wonderful things.
Yeah.
And I anyone who's listening and wants to know more, this entire show is fed into chat GPT every episode because I create all my captions, create the LinkedIn articles, anything that goes out, so it knows the transcript of every one of the shows.
Wow.
And now it's actually starting to read video, where I can actually upload the reel to it and ask it to say, okay, here's the reel, give me a caption on Instagram caption or a YouTube short description.
Awesome.
So it creates better and better intros every show. So
wow, that's so neat. I love that.
If you're not leveraging it, you're going to step behind. So grab on to anyone who's going to educate you on the. And the thing is, the great thing about AI, I've learned, not to take too much of the beginning of the show here up with it, but if you're not on there just using it, it'll never get to know you. Just keep using it and using it and using it. I can go on. I don't want to spend too much more time of the show talking about it. I will probably bring it up on different tidbits here. But tell us a little about young Delaney. You got a family in real estate industry.
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
What are some of those things that obviously kind of led you to getting into real estate? But when you made the jump in, what did you learn that you didn't actually see by growing up in it? All of a sudden, like, oh my God, now I'm actually in it. This is crazy.
I didn't see the day-to-day and just the I didn't, I guess, recognize as a young kid how much pivoting and changes that there are in every single transaction, every single deal that you're doing. I just saw the exciting wins and even the lows of it, and the hard recession that even my parents went through. So I saw
Right.
like a lot of different facets of it, but I didn't see, or at least I didn't recognize just the day-to-day tough transactions that my parents would deal with all the time, and that I think is what I've learned now being in it, is how difficult the actual day-to-day is, for sure.
Would you say you've reached a level, you've been in it long enough, you're seasoned, that really the pros really make it look easy? Because it sounds like from when you were looking in, this doesn't how difficult it is, but now you're the one actually doing those and realize what painstaking it can be.
Yeah, I really do see that. Anybody could post on Instagram or Facebook of like, I sold 10 houses this month, or I have $5 million under contract, but they fail to show how difficult those transactions can be and how devastating the hardest transaction that you've been working on is, and how even you can do the absolute best job and everything fall through. It's really it's tough to learn how to pivot through those situations, but I think it takes a lot of patience and experience to learn how to navigate when they do become difficult, that a lot of agents don't really typically talk about.
I have put out there several times that I believe agents should be keeping like a diary of their transactions, and at the end of the day or end of the transaction, you probably can't remember all the because some transactions are have so many, but every time you talk to a customer, just talk to them, because this is what I did. I got up this morning and I was searching for homes for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I spent 30 minutes doing that, and then I had a phone call with this client and saved their marriage. All that these conversations that the average person out there on the street who's not in our industry realize that goes on in a transaction, let alone the negotiations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny you say that because this year I actually started doing that. I started writing down what I did with every single day, what was different, what I could have changed, and then especially in every transaction because, things that I learned on a certain transaction are so fundamentally helpful on future transactions that I don't even think about at the time. And sometimes we do deals every single day, we do transactions every single day, so I forget about the nitty-gritty details of how hard that transaction was later on.
Yeah.
And the things that I learned from it that I can use to either change or do differently on the next transaction, that I really started doing this year. And it's helped a lot, even just with the transactions I have this year. Just looking back on, on late 2024 and early 2025, it's interesting to see how I've adapted and, and even just like the patience that I've grown to have, even just in that, 8-month period of time,
right,
has really been a game changer for me. Just recognizing it, acknowledging it, and learning how to move forward just on the toughest transactions.
I'm just going to define that. That's why you're a great real estate agent. No, seriously, you are, because you're. I think I've spoken to, I don't know. This is episode 280, so 260 plus real estate agents, top agents producing, and you're treating it like a business. You're in it, and you're in a. If you're going to look back, maybe I don't know, later on, maybe you want to create a team. It's those notes that you're taking now that's going to help you go back and remember. Hey, remember when I took that course? Was it a good one? Was it not? Was it worth it? Was it not? Because you're self-employed. All self-employed people have wasted time, energy, and money on a lot of different things. But if you're able to plug in, which will plug into the brokerage, how a good broker can lead you, especially a new agent. But you're going that Bible that you're creating, that diary that you're creating, is going to be worth something. You probably could write a book out of it.
Oh yeah,
eventually,
no, for sure. And I really started doing it because of my brokerage, because I became a mentor in my brokerage.
Oh.
So I'm mentoring 4 different agents right now. That are newly licensed and trying to really navigate this new industry, that they know nothing about for the most part. And so that's why I initially started taking notes and because it was helpful things that I learned in these transactions, that when now I'm sitting down with these agents I'm mentoring, I'm like, hey, look, like even I struggled on this transaction, but like what I learned from it was so valuable, and it could definitely help you when you do experience this, that in the future.
I'm one of those people who come, I see things and I come up with ideas. How can we do this better? I mean, this is me and my wife, we met at work. So, we're always like, wherever we're at, we're like, oh, how can we do this better? How could this be more efficient? Why does that run so inefficiently? But one of the things and I can't say that I've been doing it, but you are doing it, and that's writing it down. There was somebody in a personal development book I was not reading, probably somewhere in the last year. They're like, when you come up with these ideas, actually, I know who said it now. Hannah, and they're with Momentum. Hannah and the couple.
Hannah Pennington?
No. They're down in St. Augustine. They'll come to Hannah. You're going to come to me. I apologize. Every time he comes up with an idea, he writes down. They started the cigar. They got the cigar trailer. Oh God! What Hannah? It'll come to me. I'm terrible at this. I'm getting too old for this. Or soon. But anyway, he said basically he comes up with these. You come up with these just visions, right? This idea, like, oh man, and he writes it down. You may not operate on that or act on that right now. But because you're writing it down, you're like, you know what? I had that transaction. I know, you approximately know where it is. You go back in that diary and you find it.
My fiance gets so frustrated with me because I write everything. I'll be in the middle of a conversation and I'll think of an idea and be like, hold that thought. and I'll pick up my phone and put it in my notes. I mean, when I tell you all the time,
that's great.
Because if I don't, I'm gonna forget about it.
Yes.
And I'm going to move on because we're. I mean, real estate agents are busy people. Like we are.
Or like I get filled up and I forget people's names.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just we're always working. We're always thinking laying in bed at night. I'm like thinking about a transaction or whatever. So if I have an idea that will be more efficient, will streamline my business or whatever, I 100% have to write it down, or there's just no chance I'll remember it later.
There has been more ideas forgotten than ever. Yes,
absolutely.
So that's brilliant. But you mentioned mentoring a few moments ago. Tell us a little bit how, from your experience and your trials and errors, your pains, you learning really what the behind the scenes now of how difficult position a real estate agent is in different situations, or having to get through, and the stresses of that. Now you're mentoring younger agents. Tell us what's your mindset when you're going into mentoring, and how you're sharing that with them without dumping too much on them all at one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a learning curve. It really has. When I started in real estate, I had an amazing mentor, and I didn't talk to her every single day, but anytime that I was like struggling with something, or life just became like it was too much, the industry was too much, I didn't even know how to do things, and I was wasting a lot of time, money, and energy on things that were not producing me more time, money, and energy. And that really was a pivoting moment in my life of when I sat down and I was like, what do I do? And so when I found Momentum, my current brokerage, and they offered me this mentorship program essentially to become a mentor to other agents, it was a no question whatsoever, because I just remember feeling so lost when I first started in the industry.
Yeah.
And so now we've developed, a program where I'm brutally honest with them, and I do not sugarcoat anything. I sit down with them once a week and I just say, look, this is what I'm struggling with. This is my plan of action, how to move through it. And we basically just have a super easy conversation of how do we get through the day-to-day? How do we do activities that actually make sense and not just waste our time? Because I think a lot of agents, especially when they first start out, they're doing all the things that they should be doing, and none of them are working, or they're focused so hard on one streamlined way to get business, and they're not thinking about all these other creative ideas. And the biggest thing that we've kind of narrowed down is each one of them are different. Each person is very different, and really amplifying what is important to them, what their focus is, and using that to generate business is what I think is what changed even with me when I first started. And for example, I love dogs. Like I'm such a dog person. And so when I first started, the first thing I did was put literally a picture of me and my dog on my business card, right? And something just as small as that. Well, it's the biggest conversation starter that I have ever had at every open house. Every time I'm like talking to a new person, I hand them my card and they're like, oh my God, I have a dog. He looks just like it. It's the And then you immediately already instantly build a bond with that person, whoever it is. If I'm, knocking on somebody's door to invite them to an open house and I give them my business card, they're like, oh my gosh, I have 3 dogs. Like, you should come see them. And so it builds that trust with people already. And so I really try to, when I'm mentoring new agents or I'm talking to new agents, I really try to find that one core thing that's important to them and really try to expand it with them.
You're hitting on, in the way I translate that, you've got to, because there's so many different ways to market. Every agent does their business differently, and that's the great thing about being a real estate agent. You can, however you're making connections with others who obviously eventually want to buy or sell a home, right? And that's your, or know people that want to buy or sell a home. Also, you're bonding with them, and you found what clicks for you. Probably, obviously, through some trial and error. Okay. You've had the grit to stay in the business. We haven't gone into what your first year was and, any trials and tribulations, but I do feel a lot of agents fall out sometimes within a couple of months just because they don't find something fast enough. Or, they don't get a win fast enough.
Yeah.
Right. And you've worked with the Cloud Broker GXP. You started with Keller Williams, which is great for new agents, but I don't think even they make it something as John and Brittany have at Momentum. I think they're so forward thinking from the business standpoint of making sure these especially these green agents that join the club are getting matched up with a mentor. That should be, to me, every real estate agent coming in. If you're going to brokerage and you're brand new, if you're listening to this right now and you're brand new to the business, who's going to be your mentor? That brokerage should be matching you up right away. I don't understand why they waste the time and energy and not matching, making that match from day one. If the broker's not going to be that mentor initially anyway.
Yeah, I mean, having a broker, and honestly, it's part of the reason why I joined Momentum to begin with, is having a relationship with your broker is so important, because you do need them for, contract questions or, your day-to-day, transaction questions, of course, but it's so much more deep than that helps with a mentor that broker can't sit down with you every single day and talk to you about the hardships of real estate. They don't have the time or the energy to do that. So having a secondary person to really sit down and be like, okay, I have business. How do I expand my business? Or I have no business. How do I build a business? And I think those are such, tough conversations to have, because they're so different for each person.
Well, a lot of them don't know what to ask.
Exactly. And they don't even know where to begin.
Right.
Like, there's not even a starting line. They're just like, I want to work in real estate. I've heard it's awesome. I see all the Instagram reels about how much money you can make in real estate. Where do I begin? Right. And it's breaking that down to the core fundamental reason of why what is it about real estate that you want? Is it time? Well, I can tell you right now that you're going to be working a lot more hours than you are currently at your job. And what I mean by that is you're not going to be able to turn it off at 5 o'clock. You can't.
Well, I think people, a lot of people don't understand is we live our business. Yes. If that business is at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, we act on it. We don't let the phone. What number one thing is that, oh, you didn't answer the phone? Great. They're calling someone else. Mm-hmm. So you've got to answer the phone. Or have someone answering it for you if you're gotten to that level. But if you're not answering the phone at 8 o'clock at night on a possible client calling in, or a client who's in process who might be stressing out and going to lose sleep, that could be the difference of you getting a referral or not.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, there are certain boundaries, right? Like, I think that a lot of agents, especially top producing agents, don't set those boundaries. I struggle to set them even myself, but I also think it's very, very important to set them and set
eventually
the
you have to
right at the beginning of, at whatever time it is, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I will not be reachable. However, you can text me, and I will do my best to respond. But if I don't, I can promise you I will call you the next morning at 8 a.m. It's like setting those expectations that is so important, and then really staying true to those expectations and those boundaries, because you could have a huge deal under contract, and your client, the last thing they're going to think about is, oh, it's 8 o'clock, I don't want to call my agent, when they're stressed about the transaction, which I understand that completely. Yeah. It's very understandable. But still sticking to those boundaries is, I think, even more difficult than even setting them to begin with.
It's kind of like that work-life balance, and then setting the boundaries. They're just kind of like things that are out there we strive for, but we never really reach.
It's true, and even I deal with it, every day. It's still a struggle, but I think it's really, and it's learning to say no, and it's learning how to even fire clients when you're not working well with them, or they have unrealistic expectations for you.
That takes really a lot of confidence to be able to do that.
It does, and a confidence in yourself to know that it's okay. You're going to find other business. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, because I think a lot of agents, they'll burn themselves out completely because they're working with difficult clients, and I've just gotten to a place, and it's really just a mindset thing of, even if I have no business, that's better than working with difficult people that are making my life stressful for no reason.
Are you finding some sellers right now that are falling in that category? I've been talking to people. Obviously, we know price is everything. Your house is where it's at. You can't change that. It is. Now, maybe you can do some improvements to it to make it more attractive. Maybe it needs a paint job. Maybe it needs new flooring, whatever. But if you've got all that been done, at that point it becomes price. And I think there's some sellers out there trying to hang on because in their mind they either think the value's there, or they're going, okay, if I sell the house, I'm going to clear X amount of dollars. I can use that X amount of dollars to do this, pay off that, or whatever it is. So they're just stuck with it, and therefore they get nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with. I mean, your average person does not understand the real estate industry that we're currently working in. You know, they hear about it on the news and you know, in social media, but they don't really understand why or how things are working. There's a lot of clickbait out there, you know, saying that the market's crashing and, you know, don't sell your home or sell your home now, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that we agents deal with every day, and we have to explain, no, these are the facts. Here's the data. This is what we're seeing. So I think battling that is really difficult right now. I mean, with buyers, sellers, pretty much everybody in this, you know.
Well, you and I can convince people today. I could sell someone to refinance their home. I could convince them why it's important, even though the interest rates are high, to to purchase. And you could do the same thing. You could convince someone that they shouldn't sell right now, to wait it out. But then you could convince someone it's time to get it listed right now. We come up with reasons.
Yeah.
We don't know what our goal is, to get out of our clients the reasons why they're even in this discussion with us.
That
right?
was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is it really depends on what's the scenario? What are you looking for? You know, you want to sell your home for top dollar, okay? But why? What is it that you need to sell it for top? You know, are you trying to leave in 30 days? Are you having to leave? Are you being moved by your job? Like, there's so many more factors involved in that help kind of break it down for each person. And I think really being able to walk into any appointment and knowing the facts and being the expert that you claim you are, with what's going on in the day-to-day industry, is really important in kind of breaking down what's going on in this market. I do
want to get how many how many are you mentoring right now? How many?
4 agents.
Yeah, 4 agents right now. Okay. One thing I've been wanting to do, a new agent posted themselves on, and I won't name the brokerage, but it's a very popular brokerage here in town. She was a new agent. I said, well, she had some great Instagram stuff, and I reached out to her. I said, oh, you're new. I said, you have a mentor? Because I'd love to have you. Obviously, it's great if someone's good on social media and a good real estate agent. It's plus for me as the show, right, to help get stuff out there because they're in social media. I was amazed by, she didn't even have any mentor. And this is one of the largest, most popular brokerages in town. And I was surprised. I was just amazed by how you bring on a new agent into your brokerage and not have them connected with someone who's doing well there. To me, it's investing in their success. So what I'd like to extend out to you, and we could maybe talk to it after show about your 4 people you're mentoring and maybe where they're at in their mentoring thing, to have you both on the show and talk about the mentoring process for new agents that are coming on and why it's important and what they're getting out of it, what where they're at in their what they know about real estate so far, which is probably not much, but that's good. We want to know that. And then do some checkups, in 6 months or whatever. Hopefully they're still with us.
I talk to them every week.
Yeah.
I do check-ins every week.
Yeah. No, I mean, have you guys come back on the show and say, now I've been doing it 6 months. I've been in a year. Delaney's been my mentor, and after so many, she helped me with my first sale, whatever you guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that would be great. I think it's a really smart idea just to kind of see the beginning processes of everything, and even me, of course, I'm still learning even as a mentor of how I can do better and be better and explain things differently, because it's difficult because I have my own transactions too. So the day-to-day, hustle and bustle, I'm doing that, and it's stopping, learning to stop.
Are you having some of them shadow you through?
Yeah. Oh yeah, on appointments and yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt. And they help me with showings, and I will have them sit with me on a buyer consultation, listing appointments, any properties I'm going to look at, because I do a lot of investment properties too. So one of the agents I'm mentoring, she's very interested in doing fix and flips and buying a rental property and learning kind of that part of the industry. So we've kind of created her mentorship program focused mainly on that aspect of it, as opposed to another agent of mine really wants to build a strong retail business and, really hit the ground running, with buyers and sellers and really holding open houses and all of those things. So they're all very different. And that's why I sit down with each of them at the very beginning of like, what is it that you want? What type of life do you want to build? What's the lifestyle you're looking for? Because it's very different. And
so
fortunately,
you need to make sure they're listening to every episode of the Real Estate Excellence podcast, because if they go back, all those things that you just mentioned, I've had agents on. Cindy James was in corporate America. She's now is 50 partners with a construction company. The guy was building houses, but he wasn't good at the back office, where she's an ace at that kind of stuff, and she's organized. And so she started obviously saving him money, cutting processes down. He's out doing what he does, hammering nails, which she's good at, and she's good at doing what she does, and they do renovations and things like that. So listening to the show and listening to the different top agents that come on, and then the fact they're so close, they can actually reach out and call them and have coffee with them.
Yeah.
It's not someone from California. This is someone right here in Northeast Florida, right here in Jacksonville or St. Augustine or Fernandina or whatever to have. All right. We're talking about new agents. Let's go back to you as a new agent. What actually brought you? Because you did some. I saw paralegal, if I recall, on your list of things that you were doing prior. What made you make the command decision to jump into the family industry of real estate and make that dive in becoming an agent?
My parents were very against me getting into real estate.
Were they?
Yes, they were.
How about today?
They're very supportive of it.
Now,
I mean, because they know that I'm so happy, working in real estate.
Well, I mean, your success. You're not asking them for money. I hope you're
I'm definitely on.
You're paying your own bills.
Sure. Yeah. No, they just know how hard the industry can be and how defeating it can be, and so that's really what they were kind of hesitant about when I started. But no, I was paralegal. I loved being a paralegal. I mean, I worked for a defense law firm, so in Washington D.C. So I was ready to go. I got a bachelor's degree.
Did you live in the city, or did you live in Virginia or Maryland?
I lived in Arlington, Virginia. Okay. Yeah, right outside the city though.
I spent most of the '90s in Centerville.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I loved it, and I loved my job. I loved, it was very difficult, very very difficult dealing with the clients that we were dealing with. Very sad, very disheartening, because a lot of it was insurance claims, car crashes, and things like that. But I loved having the ability to help people, and that was really what I didn't even realize was the foundation that I was trying to build, was just a system where I could work in a job in an industry that was helping people. And it wasn't necessarily being in law that was what was my driving force, and I thought it was.
That's your high at the end of it, to know that you've guided somebody, and then obviously they're happy and give you the appreciation back, saying thank you, because we don't know how we would have done it without you.
Yeah, and that's really what drives me every single day. But it took me a long time to realize that, and to realize that that's what I wanted, and that I could build a career off of that. But again, when I was a paralegal, it was exhausting. I was getting tendonitis in my arms because I was on the computer all day, and it was exhausting in every aspect of it. And so I came to a point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's not helping my physical body. Like, mentally, it's destroying me. Seeing these tragic car crash cases, it was just very, very, very brutal. And so I ended up. One of my really close friends, she was a real estate agent, and she's like, well, why don't you just get your real estate license? While you're, stay being a paralegal, just get it, and then, come with me on a few appointments and whatnot. And
that was still in Virginia?
It was still in Arlington, still in Virginia. And so I did. I got licensed in Virginia, and around the same time frame, I made the decision actually to move back down to Florida to be closer to my family. And so I just been licensed about a year and a half or so, but really wasn't taking it super seriously. And I was just kind of really trying to learn and adapt and try to just build a base before I even jumped full-time into being a real estate agent. And then I became an assistant of a real estate agent for about 6 months, and just saw how successful she was, and how how much fun she was having, you know, and I could see like the hardships, I could see the day-to-day, but like I really was just like, wow, she has so much flexibility, she has so much time to like really like dedicate to her clients, like that's what I want to do. And so I ended up moving back down to Florida, to Jacksonville, but I had no network, I had nothing. This was right before COVID happened. And I just set my mind and I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this the whole way, I'm going to see it through. And so I literally every single day I started handwriting letters to, you know, saying, you know, if I could even find some of the marketing material back then, it would honestly crack me up. But I would handwrite on all of the envelopes, because somebody who sees it handwritten on an envelope is more likely going to open it versus having it typed and printed. And so I started doing that every day. I'd write 10, 20, 30 letters a day, and just, you know, really just shooting for the stars and trying.
Just people you ran into?
Yes, people I ran into.
Family, friends.
I would hold an open house, and then everybody that came through the open house, I would handwrite them a thank you card for coming to their open house. You know, it was just different ideas that I was just trying, just sporadically, kind of no function, like no systems, no processes, no, you know, efficient, you know, model for building a business. I had nothing. I did not know what I was doing.
Right.
But it allowed me to meet people. And then the hardest part was meeting people during COVID. So all I could do was write letters, you know, and text messages and stuff. But like for the most part, we were all kind of locked in our house. And for a while, we couldn't even hold open houses. And so it was really tough. But I was determined. So I wrote those letters and I sent out marketing material and I did everything I could. And slowly over the course of about a year, I started getting buyers. And then it was difficult because I had probably 10, 15 buyers ready to buy in the market that was so difficult for buyers. So flip-flopped. And I was like, all right, you know, but every single time that one of my buyers would find a house, I would be like, all right, this is what we have to do to get it, to win it. And I would tell them like exactly what we need to do. And there were very few offers that we did not get accepted because and then I would just build rapport with that agent of like, hey, I know you have 7 other offers that are better than my buyer's best offer, but I can promise you, like, I will do everything I can to make this seamless and whatever. And that goes a really long way with agents. I mean, if they feel confident in the buyer's agent working with them on their listing that the house is actually going to close, it makes all the difference. All
right, so if you're listening to this right now, what you just described, I've heard so many from the other side, because not from the other side, from agents that have been on here, about agents on the other side that are just not getting it. And like they'll send an offer without even calling the listing agent, for example, and letting them know it's coming, and try to get hey, what are the sellers looking for? Do they need to close quickly, or maybe they need a 60-day close because for whatever, but they're not warming that relationship up. And talk to how what you found by creating those relationships is created success.
Oh yeah, and I mean even further than that, the relationships I've built, even some of the ones that like our offers didn't end up getting accepted, but I spent 30-45 minutes on the phone with that agent just talking to them and building a relationship with them on the next transaction, because this is a small industry, really is at the end of the day. Next transaction, they remember me and they're like, hey, look, I remember that feeling of feeling super confident. I'm sorry the seller didn't end up taking your buyer's offer, but like, here we are again. We meet up again. And it just goes such a long way. I have listings every single day when I tell you, I will just spontaneously get an offer. And even worse, like, you know, it'll be sent from a random email and it'll go to my spam folder. Well, I don't check my spam folder every day. That agent never texted me, called me, nothing.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
I can't believe
it. So it's been 2 days and there's an offer sitting in my spam folder and that agent hasn't even called or texted me. And then they'll be like, hey, so I'm assuming the seller just didn't respond. I'm like, to what? Respond to what are you talking about? And it's like, so in my offer instructions, I'm like, please text me to confirm that it went.
You shouldn't even have to say that.
You shouldn't, but like
this is hundreds of thousands of dollar transactions. You're getting paid very well on the other end of the deal, and you can't even let the selling agent know, hey, I've sent it, confirm that you've received my offer. Yeah. But it blows my mind, but it's not shocking.
No. It's not, and it's tough because again, like that agent's not going to get paid until the transaction closes, and vice versa. Like that's our job is to make sure that it's seamless as possible and to get to that closing table. And when you're not working with the other agent on the other side, and even when you go under contract, when you're not being reasonable, and and even if your client's being unreasonable, you still have that that conversation with that agent, be like, hey, look, I know this repair request is 17 pages long. Like, I understand it. Let's break it down. Like, we're on the same team here, both trying to do the best we can for our clients. Let's break it down. What can we do? What are the most critical, things on this list for the buyer? I will make sure I do everything I can to make sure that these are done. Are they okay if I can get these ones? Like it's just really kind of just working as a team that I think gets lost so often. And it's unfortunate because you're working for your clients, but if you can't work as a team with the other agent, it's really difficult to get there.
Well, you said something before the show we haven't spoke about, and that was your being with EXP and not interacting with other agents on a in an office thing or whatever, anything that you just felt you were on an island. When you're in a transaction and making an offer, if you're a new agent and you're listening to this, obviously Delaney gets it. That's your partner. There's the agent on the other side.
Absolutely.
You have someone who wants to buy a home and you have someone who wants to sell it, and the two of you need to actually get everyone to come to an agreement. So for you to Tom likes to use transparency. I forget the phrase he uses. Transparent, but be as transparent as possible. Because if the seller told you, hey, we need a quick closing or we need a delayed closing, we need to get this amount of money here, we need this, that, and the other, and the buyer's telling you, well, we need some closing costs covered, and we need to be open with each other, then put the puzzle together. And it's just going to be a more peaceful transaction. But I think what happens is we all choose sides, whether it's politics or sports. We choose sides, and some people get a little too overzealous for a baseball team or a football team. It's like, dude, calm down. It's just a game, okay? Mm-hmm. To be transparent with each other. Yeah, maybe you give up something, but you know what? If your client agrees to giving up whatever that is, or make that repair, they're going to say, all right, we'll make that repair to make it happen. That's their choice. Yeah. You're just putting it out there on the table saying this will get it done. Are you willing to accept it, or do you want me to go back and fight it?
Don't kill the messenger.
Yeah, don't kill the messenger. And I think it would just make, there's always negotiations. It's going to happen. Every deal has its hair to it. That's part of real estate. But the more, and I think, like you said, you started creating relationships with agents, whether you won the deal or not, in the multiple, that they now knew your name. So when you came up again, and
when you don't burn bridges, like there are so many agents in this industry that, the transaction will close and they've been frustrated the whole time, and they, will burn a bridge with the other agent. And, I can't tell you how many times I hear that a day, and I'm like,
that'll never pay off.
I get the frustration. Trust me, I deal with it every single day. I get when I'm dealing with another agent that's not easy to work with and won't respond for 3 days, and I'm like, hello, like I deal with this every day. It's probably one of the hardest parts of this industry is working with so many different personality types, right? Like, because you have your client's personality, you have the lender, you have the buyer's agent. There's so many different personalities all trying to meet together and close on a transaction. But never burn bridges, because even if you are dealing with the most frustrating agent on the other end, you have no idea if in a month, a year, 5 years, you're going to work with that agent again.
Right.
And it's like,
or you're going to get in a multiple offer situation, and it's you and another same offer.
Yeah.
That agent that's looking at those offers has the power to say, hey, I like her because she's easy to work with and I've had successful transactions. Okay, go with her.
Well, and I have sellers, especially like sellers I work with, frequently, they ask me straight up all the time, like, well, I know we have these two offers on the table. Which buyer's agent do you feel like can get us through?
Get it done.
100%.
Yes.
And they should be asking that, because I can't give them a straight answer. I'm like, hey, look, like this is the conversation I had with this one. This one, I called her 3 times. She didn't answer, but the next day she called me back, and it was a great conversation. But like, this is what happened. You know, it's like, that's important things to know when you're signing a contract
Yes.
with the amount of money we're dealing with here. It's,
I'm going to say that has a lot to do with maturity.
yeah.
You know, I was probably late to the game. You're earlier to the game than I am from maturity, but most women are. So, that it comes down to, what is this nasty email going to get me? You know, what is being nasty, this person going off on him on the phone, going to get me? Is it worth it? Or should I just go talk to the dog and yell at the dog and then come back? Yeah, yeah.
I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I call agents sometimes that they'll send me a nasty email. I'm like, hey, like, I got your email. Like, are you good? Like, it's not that serious. Like, we're all trying to work together here. Like, I understand you're frustrated because, you know, sellers said they would do the repairs and they didn't do them by the date that they said, and we're a day late. Like, I get it. But, like, let's all breathe.
Yeah.
We're all still trying to get to closing. Like, I understand. And also, the biggest thing, and this is such an important thing, is taking accountability. Like, even top producing agents, like, they mess up. They're late on things. They don't respond on time. They're on vacation, God forbid. And, you know, there's just, like, things that happen in our everyday lives. And, like, you know, you get an email, it's like, I need to know by 12 o'clock, right? Just for example. And you don't get a response till 1:30. Like, that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, to me, if you're listening to that, if I send you an email and I need a response by noon, and let's say it's 9 o'clock, I got to send a message to make sure you receive that message, because you might not go in and check your emails
and
for.
That was exactly what I was gonna say. It's like calling to follow up with them, but like, hey, like, I really need a response by 12 o'clock. Totally understand. Honestly, that's how it works in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But like, making sure they got that message, not giving them an hour to get something big done, like, you know, like, being reasonable about it. And then if that agent calls and is like, hey, I'm so sorry, you know, depending on the scenario, of course, but like, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm responding right now, I'm on top of it, you know, like everything's being handled, you know, I might be 3 minutes late, but like, you know, and just being willing to be like, okay, let's break it down, I need a response, but like, send it to me, you know, like, send it to me right now while we're on the phone, or, you know, whatever. It's
you're setting it up for success. You're setting the expectations so they can be successful.
Yeah.
Because that's what your goal is. Your success is if both sides are successful and you sell the house. Tell us a little bit about getting your first. You were at an opportunity to work as an assistant in Virginia, so you were there. But when at what point you're out there on your own? It's now Delaney Henderson. She's the brand. She's everything. What are some of the challenges, some of the things that that you share when you're mentoring, that you're like, hey, when I started, I didn't even know this, so I want you to know?
First 2 years are the hardest. And you've got to find a way to be different. And biggest thing for me is make sure you're the expert in your field. Read every book. Get coffee with every agent that you aspire to be. That's the biggest thing. That's exactly
good advice. Good advice.
And like, making it happen, because these agents are busy. They're busy people. I'm probably one of the busiest people that you're ever going to meet. Like, I am very busy. My schedule is booked. But calling that agent, be like, hey, I know you're very busy. Can we meet in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you know, whatever, for 15 minutes? Can I get 15 minutes of your time? And truthfully speaking, when I first started, that is what catapulted not only my business, but it expanded my mindset of learning from so many different agents that were everything I wanted to be, you know, and everything that I saw, you know, they're closing the most luxury listings that I could ever dream about, you know, having, and, you know, building a team that I didn't even know if I wanted, or, you know, it was just learning the different ways that, how did they get there? What are they doing now? What are they doing? How do they delegate? Delegation is a very important tool that I'm still learning to this day. But like, how are they doing it that is different than another agent? And then holding all of those conversations, compiling it, and building your business with little its and bits of everything, right?
Right.
Which is so important. And that's truly what I did in the very beginning. Like, I called, I mean, truly, like, probably the top 5 agents that I even
Did someone give you that advice? Where did you get that? About
doing that?
Yeah. Or, you know, because obviously, I mean, it's one thing if you go out and meet 1 or 2 people. Someone told me you go out and talk to a couple of, okay, but you sound like you you met a lot of people.
I did. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of people, and then some agents didn't have time to meet, so I would just talk to them on the phone. But it's crazy to think that like even the top producing agents that especially me being a brand new agent, that I would see these agents closing these deals and whatever, and I kind of like, and it was a mindset thing. It was totally in my head, but I didn't look at myself as like, they're not going to want to talk to me. They're not going to want to get coffee with me. And I was so wrong. Like truthfully, some of the top producing agents are some of the nicest people that I have ever met in my life. And I was not expecting that at the beginning.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you. Every agent that I've had on is open to, every agent, they're all top producers.
Yeah.
They're all willing to collaborate because of all the things that we just talked about in the last 15 minutes about reaching out to and knowing each other. They've got a client. The person they've collaborated with, they've gotten to know, has a seller. You create those relationships. Or I forget who did this is a while back, but because I've mentioned it numerous times throughout the years on the show, an agent told me, I had a seller, a friend of mine. They lived in this part of Northeast Florida here, but I wasn't familiar with it because I lived, they lived in Fernandina and I lived in St. John's, but they wanted me to represent them, but I wasn't really familiar. So I called an agent who works that area and say, hey, my friend wants to sell the house. Everyone understands they want their friend to sell, so how do I, how should I market or whatever questions they had, what was the best way to sell a house in an area that they weren't familiar with? And when you create relationships, and those top agents, they do want to collaborate. They do want to tell you how they did it. They know they're not giving away any top secrets. It may be a secret, but the reality of the amount of people who take advantage of those nuggets that you're talking about are few and far between, and you were one that's taken advantage of it.
Yeah, and really that's what set me apart from a lot of the other agents. I mean, I met an agent that had been in this industry for 25 years, and he was kind enough to first 2 months I was here, every weekend he would drive me around and literally drive me through the neighborhoods and be like, this is a great neighborhood for this reason. This is a great neighborhood for this reason. This is a local coffee shop that you definitely want to take your clients to who are moving from out of the area because it's local, it's in the great, he would like explain all this to me. And I mean, he spent hours with me. And why? It did, really didn't benefit, quote unquote, him at all, but he wanted to help other agents. And I was like, this is profound. This is amazing.
It's kind of like that. If you really want to get to know a subject, you teach it. Mm-hmm. And he was doing activities that he knew he could do it, but now he had a reason to do those activities. That's the way I would do. I always go to things that look at things and what's the two-edged sword? What's the collateral benefit of me doing this? Well, it's going to help that too. Mm-hmm. So okay, all right, now I'm killing two birds with one stone. So and then obviously I think a lot of people want to. Many of them don't understand how to, but obviously you look back, you remember him and how he affected your business. And that's really the mark that some people want to leave on others.
To this day, 5 years later.
Yeah, 100%. There's this book called Grit. Have you read it?
I have.
You have? Good. Okay.
A long time ago, but I have.
Angela Duckworth. Okay. So a while back, and eventually I'm going to put this talk together. I call Grit. I'm going to take a book about the show, right? All these transcripts that I have, right? Yeah, I gotta put some grease on that. That's all right.
It's the most dramatic door ever.
That's all right. We got that. But because I think real estate agents you've got to have grit to be in this business. If you have not tested your grit in the business, you haven't been in the business long enough, right? Yeah. But I call it the LLC. To me, people who have the LLC, in my experience with grit, and that's love, laughter, and consistency. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us why you love real estate. Assuming you do.
I love real estate. I love how it's the only industry that I've found that is constantly changing every single day. Small ways, big ways. it's affected by everything. It's not affected by anything. It's such a unique industry that I don't think, at least in my experience, I've been able to find anywhere else that doesn't force me into doing the same thing every single day, which is what I wanted. That was the biggest thing. And it allows me the ability to help other people and to fight for other people that are just sometimes so lost. They don't even know any part of the transaction.
Where to start.
They have no idea. And the biggest thing is, like, some people come to me and they're like, hey, I don't know when or if ever I'm going to be able to buy a house, but, like, I just want to talk to you. I'm sorry for wasting your time, whatever. And it turns out, like, I've worked with her for a month, and she can buy a house. She very much can buy a house. And now, say 3 months later, we're closing on her very first home that she's worked so hard for. And it's like seeing the look on, my clients' faces at that point. It's like, no matter how hard that transaction was to get to that closing table, it's like so worth it. I don't even think about it. It's not even a blip on my mind, right? Because I see how happy it makes people. And just, again, sellers in, like, desperate situations where they're stressed, they owe way more on their mortgage than their house is worth. And, it's sitting with them, explaining the situation, and coming up with a game plan that will help ease their stress that they've been living with for 6 months. That's really why I love this industry. And I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I really can't. So now it's just learning how to time management, time block, and set stronger boundaries.
We'll get it. We'll get into that topic here in a minute. I'm going to write that down right here so make sure we do. The second L is laughter, and to me, you have to be able in life. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. You've had situations. It's funny when I asked them ChatGPT to create the intro, it found grit in your bio somehow. I didn't even read your bio. I just copied the case and threw it in there. So give me an intro. Of course, it knows I talk about grit because I load grit in there a lot, or I ask it a lot on the show. And I believe we've all come through situations now where you guys are probably at a cocktail party and someone asks you about real estate. There's probably a story you tell that, a deal gone sideways or a deal that just blew up and really sets you back from a standpoint of, like, should I be doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Type of thing. Can you share with us a time where, a situation where you really had whatever happened in real estate that really just set you back, questioned why you're even in doing it, and then what you did got out of it, and now you laugh about it?
Yeah, there's so many. I'll just kind of give you a very basic one. I had probably one of the worst, I don't know if it was luck. I don't know if it was I just dropped the ball on something, or if karma just came back around for something I did, who knows. But I had one of the hardest weeks last year in real estate where it was like, I had 3 closings that week and 2 buyers that we were waiting on responses to their offer. It was like busy week, right? And for various
good situation
reasons,
to have.
of course. And then on top of it, I had life happening, and because we do have lives outside real estate, as crazy as it sounds. And I cannot make this up if I tried. Like, every one of my closings just completely fell through, got delayed. Like, it just literally
everything.
Just chaos.
Yeah.
Just absolute chaos. And so I'm like, okay, all right. But I have these buyers, their offers have to be accepted because, like, we've already been through the crap of the week. Like,
Yeah.
And then I kid you not, like, and the houses the houses we made offers on, like, were sitting on the market, like, they weren't, like, just listed, like, it wasn't stressful, any of that. And both of these offers, another offer came in that was higher. One agent didn't even tell us that it came in. They just accepted the offer. So, like, we didn't even have a chance.
Right.
And the other offer, we had to, like, just come up. It was back and forth. It was stressful. And they didn't end up taking the offer. I was like, why am I doing this? It was the most defeating, I cannot even explain to you, the defeating week that I've ever had in my life. And I took, like a 2-day sabbatical. Like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is exhausting. And, like, why am I doing this? Like, all these clients are mad at me because, it's tough to explain situations. Like, we deal with the day-to-day in the transaction. Sometimes we deal with things that we don't even tell our clients about. There's no reason to. It's
right.
it has nothing. It doesn't affect them at all, and it's
why they hire. It's why they hire you.
Yeah.
It's why they hire me to take care of those things.
It's stress that we take on so that they don't have to, right?
Yep.
And so they would, they only see what we are relaying to them, and I've learned that that's, a catch-22, because while you're preventing the stress that they could encounter, now if they don't know about all these details, they're going to, hopefully not, but sometimes look at you as like, well, why didn't you prevent this situation, even though you there's no way you could have, just things like that. It's just little things. And so that it was just absolute chaos. And I ended up calling the very first mentor I ever had on the phone, and I was just sobbing. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know how you've done this. Like, you run one of the biggest groups and teams in Jacksonville. Like, how do you do this? And she was like, you just need to calm down and figure out how to make this work. And I'm like, you're so right. And she was so right, and I did. I figured it out. I got all 3 of those closings back on the table. They closed the following week, and both those buyers found better houses. Like, it all worked out.
Yes.
It always does work out for the better.
Well, there's no doubt. And again, the getting through that, again, it goes back to maturity too. You had a great thing going on. You had 5 active situations. 3 of them were actually at the goal line. You just had to punch them over. And the other 2 wasn't exactly just because they didn't get those homes, weren't going to find better, which often happens. They end up finding a better home when they thought.
They did.
Yeah. Unanswered prayers is what is really a lot of times when that. And but it can knock you down to your knees.
It did.
Yeah.
It does. Industry's not for the weak.
But having someone to call that you've created a relationship, I think at the tail end of that story, you called your mentor, and they brought you down to reality. As I'm sure Brittany would have done the same. If you called her, she would have grounded you and let you know it's still alive. It's still a heartbeat. So let's keep going. And then obviously the sun will rise again tomorrow.
Half the time Brittany calls me, we just laugh. We're just like.
Well, that's why I call that part laughter, because you laugh about that. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Because today a deal gets pushed out, or when you got 1 a week, you're like, oh, I had a day where I had 5 of those. Not a big deal.
Yeah. And and you have to remember those things, especially even on the weeks you're winning and you have so many closings and you've made all this money and your clients are so happy and it's just the best week ever. You still have to remember those hard weeks, because if you don't, then when it is a hard week, you're gonna spiral.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to get back from that.
All right. So the C in my LLC is consistency. What have you evolved that you feel you are doing today consistently in your business, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, but something you said earlier, you love how it's different every day, but there's some things that you are doing religiously, and it might not be every day, but at least something you're doing in your business that you feel moves the needle.
Oh, that's staying in contact with your past clients. That's the biggest thing. That's what's catapulted my business, and it's in little ways. It varies. Text messages, phone calls, getting lunches, remembering birthdays, sending quarterly pop-ups or Popeyes. It's like little touches and little things, and also like building strong relationships with them to begin with, so that it's not even a task at that point. It's not even something difficult to do. That's really the biggest thing. I have never failed to deliver my annual Christmas gifts and my Thanksgiving gifts and my summer sunscreen, and it's like these little things that they just know. And then they get excited because I'll stop by and they'll see me and I'll get to see the changes that they've made in their house. And, so it's really staying consistent with keeping in contact with people, especially as your business grows and you do more transactions. And now that, 20 houses you closed, or 20 transactions you closed last year just doubled. And now you've got 40 people or 40 families to stay in contact with. Making that the priority.
Initially, that doesn't sound like a lot. Right. No, initially, no. Because I think a lot of people, what they do is they go, oh, well, I had 10 sales last year. That's just 10 people. I'll call them eventually. I can do that in 15 minutes. And then they put it off. and they put it off and they put it off. Then they have another year to do a little bit better. Now they got another 10, 15 people that they're.
It builds quickly.
Yeah, and then you realize that, oh my God, how many sales did I miss? Or this first 30 transactions that I had that they actually referred somebody else because they forgot your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, which happens all the time.
Yep.
I mean, it happens to me all the time. Like, you can't prevent that for the most part, but
you can prevent it by
building relationships with these people. Yeah.
Well, so are you have a manual process? Are you working a CRM? How are you?
I have a full-time assistant now, so she's handling all of that. Thank goodness, she's my saving grace.
Now, did you develop that when she came on, or did you have something already developed that she took over?
No, I'll be honest with you. I am the worst at technology, so I was working out of Google Sheets for years, and it was bad. So I would literally just go down the list and I would make it a goal to stop by these two of these houses on this list a week, and and then if I could do more, if I was in the area, then I would stop by one more, whatever. It really just kind of varied. So now we have a whole schedule, and we plan it out well in advance to keep it easy and to keep it like important, because what I don't want to do is not or make any one of my clients feel like they're not the priority, or they're not, like important as important as they were 4 years ago when we closed in their house.
Right.
So we sit down. I mean, every quarter we sit down and we come up with a plan of action of how am I going to make contact with these people. If I don't have, 3 phone calls with, 3 of my clients this week, I will not have checked those boxes.
Is this a virtual assistant or someone?
No, she's here. She's here in Jackson.
Is 100% you, or are you sharing her with other people?
She's my assistant.
100%. So you've got her on a salary here,
yes,
or payroll of some sort. Full time?
Yep.
8 hours a day?
Yep. She's awesome. So, real estate.
Okay.
So
well,
kind of varies, but she goes above and beyond. She's so
okay.
great.
Why? Because I can guarantee you there's agents listening right now, okay, that are saying, what are you keeping her busy with for 40 hours a week?
So many things.
Just give me some details.
I mean, I have 7 properties under contract right now. I have 8 new listings. I have, I think, 5 closings this month. I mean, we're busy. We're it's way too much, way more than I can handle. And she's studying to get her real estate license too, because she's not licensed yet.
Right. Now, does she want to become an agent, or she just wants to help you because she's licensed? She can do more for you.
She wants to become an agent so that she can do agent things.
Okay.
I call her my partner because I don't like calling the assistant. It sounds weird to me. So she wants to really just like be able to co-list properties with me, because I'm co-listing a few with a couple other agents right now, and so it's just like things like that where she's so busy. I'm so busy and she's so busy. I don't know how she's managing it, but she is so on top of it, and finding the right person to be able to take over. How I would take over was so hard, but so was
she being a transaction coordinator for you?
Yep.
So she's okay. So she's a we'll say jack of all trades. She's doing basically being the assistant,
yes,
an assistant to everything that you're unable to get to. She's whatever it's marketing. She's keeping clients up to date on where the transaction's at and all that kind of stuff. All right, I want to step back because this is a subject that I think is very important, because I think every agent that sticks with it eventually reaches it. It could be in their first year. It might take them 5 years, but they reach a lid where they've been doing everything all themselves. And now it's time for them to drop some of this other stuff off, or in this case, hire an assistant. At what point did you make that command decision? Did you get advice? How did you work through it and eventually make the hire?
I did. It was tough. I called it back, I think it was 2022 and 2023. I called an agent that same real estate agent that had been mentoring me for a few years, and I asked her that exact question. As I had so much going on, and it was starting to affect my relationships with my family, and it was really starting to impact my day-to-day life. And so, but I didn't want to start a team. Like, I was not interested in that at the time. I was not, I run things the way that I run things, and like the idea of like bringing other agents, and it just was so overwhelming at that point. And she was like, you need to just break it down and learn how to time manage your entire schedule yourself, or bring on somebody to help you time manage it, yourself. And so I went through 2024 not taking the advice. And, just honestly, the reason being is the thought of interviewing and trying to find a person that could manage everything I was dealing with, that just seemed like, oh, let me add one more thing on my plate. And it was exhausting. I didn't have time to interview people. Like I was tired and I was so busy. And I finally met the assistant that I have now. And the first time I talked to her, I was like, I need you to work with
Was
me.
this through an official interview or just, okay.
Yes, yeah. I talked to her on the phone first and then I talked to her in person. And she was so organized and she was everything that I was striving to be, but I was so busy I couldn't, be that, focused and prioritize and, everything. And that really is what I needed. And I knew I needed that first before I could make any decisions, whether it was start a team, be a mentor. I needed help first before I could even think about what I want next for my business. And it was the best decision I ever made. I mean, truthfully speaking, it really was.
Tell me, because I think there's a lot of agents that reach this point. They might be at it right now, or they're going to reach it. Some of them have been in it for years because they plateau. What has happened to your business? Have you noticed? Did the needle move when you?
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden, you opened yourself up. You were spending more time. I would imagine it gave you more time face to face because you had to fill her 40. You're going to hire for 40 hours, so you're like, well, I got to dump as much over there as she stays busy for 40 hours.
Oh, she's
but
so
now,
busy.
what advantages did you take? What did you take advantage of now that you had some of this freed up time?
Really, just continuing relationships with my clients, staying on top of deadlines better. I mean, I never allowed them to fall through or to not stay on top of them, but like
A lot more stress.
giving up that place in my mind of stressing about those deadlines and passing it on to somebody else. I still know them. I still work with that, but it's keeping that stress and removing it and not having it anymore.
I don't think a lot of people understand how that affects your ability, especially with the person you're working with right in front of you at the time.
Oh, 100%. And that's the biggest thing is it's allowed me to be present most of all again. Because even when you're so busy and you have 100 million things on your mind and you're even at a client meeting with somebody, a buyer consultation, whatever it is, if you're not able to be present and to hear what they're saying of what is the most important thing in the world to them or what they're looking for, like that's serious about your entire relationship with them, but also you're not going to be able to help and dedicate yourself to finding them the property that they're looking for. And I think that that's been the hardest part of all of it is just learning how to give up that control to someone else to help manage and allowing myself to be more present in one-on-one conversations with new clients and existing clients.
Have you found, I don't know if maybe you measured it, maybe you didn't, maybe you just feel it, your quality of what you're delivering to your buyer or seller throughout the process? Because when you did the consultation, you're more present and so forth, but throughout the entire transaction, because now your assistant's coming in and maybe making that extra phone call that you could have made, but you didn't because you were too busy with somebody else, or it was obviously the call was made on time versus, that kind of thing, that all of a sudden maybe your referrals picked up because people were actually, they thought your transaction was great to begin with, but now it's even better. Yeah. Have you seen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even honestly expect that at all. But yeah, I'm able to answer the call at the second, one of my clients calls me, and that I wasn't able to do that before because I would call them back immediately as soon as I possibly could. But it's being able to take a step back and answer that call and be like, okay, let me focus on this now, rather than I have 19 other things I'm trying to get done by this deadline at this time. I can't even fathom adding another one to my plate. Like, now I have
you're on the phone with them because you're calling them back, but you got to call somebody else after that. And after you get done talking to them, then you call the other person. You forgot what you were, Let's finish up with some, you're having a lot of success now. Like I said, you've got a bunch of your listings. You got a bunch of buyers right now. It's really happening for you. And I've seen in the last, well, the rates went up in March of 22 or May of 22. And agents who have had success and even success going into through 22, all of a sudden, I think in this last year or so, maybe last 2 years, have really, some of them have excelled, which it sounds like you've excelled through this market, where others have actually, who might have been doing just as good as you in 22, all of a sudden have gone down and are struggling. Maybe probably some of them have probably left the business actually.
Oh yeah.
What do you, if you know you're mentoring these agents right now, what are thinking of some of the things that you're doing right now, or you know, if you look back, go, you know what, it's because I did that in 22, 23, which I imagine your answer is going to be you stayed in touch with your past clients. But if someone, you ask you, why are you being successful right now where others are not? Because I think we know 70-something% of the agents didn't even do a deal last year. Mm-hmm. Why has that line gotten so, you know, the successful ones have gotten narrower and narrower actually. Yeah. There. What do you think that you're doing, or what would you, how would you express that to someone that, you know, why are you being successful right now where others are not?
I think a lot of it has to do with being proactive and not reactive to the market changes. You know, we've been hearing the market's slowly changing even in 2022, and, you know, everybody's uncertain, not really sure. And being proactive about that and not just focusing on the current market, but also planning for worst case scenario. You know, like, it's really difficult to do that, but I think, you know, focusing, especially agents that are starting out right now or, you know, are slowing down right now, focusing on like, what is a money making activity? What is going to, you know, produce me the most, you know, the maximum value for my time that I can do right now. Like, if I wake up every day and I wake up and I'm like, I don't even know what to do today to get business. Think about things differently. What can you do that's different than any agent that's out there that's working right now, doing the exact same thing, holding open houses? Okay, how can my open houses be different so that it actually produces buyers who are ready, able, and willing to purchase a home coming through the door? What can I do that's different? And I mean, there are agents out there that are doing it, and there are agents out there that are having very, 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 very busy open houses when down the street that open house is dead. And it's because that agent did something different. They marketed different, and reaching out to those agents and being like, hey, what can I do? Do you think that, you know, asking for advice, asking for help, asking for mentorships, and you know, calling your broker to ask questions of like, I'm really struggling right now. Well, not sitting around waiting for deals to fall in your lap, but getting out there and having the grit and the hustle in your mindset and not giving up until you've found that is really what's going to set you apart from every agent on, you know, in the same industry, in the same market. It's really right now, especially right now, it's about being different. There are a lot of agents, especially in Northeastern Florida, there are a lot of agents, and you've got to find that niche that's going to be so much different than everybody else. And then adapting to it, you know, you know, that open house that I held, just as an example, was so slow. What could I have done differently? Could I have put out more signs? Could I have put out signs with balloons? What would have done? And trying those things and implementing those things and spending the time, money, and energy into activities that will actually be money-making activities versus just wasting your time, you know, trying to go to these events but not talking to people. You know, that's really the biggest thing. And asking other agents, how are you getting clients? What are you doing that's different? I
want to circle back to, you know, you spend a lot of time, you know, calling and having coffee, whatever, lunch, whatever, meeting up with a lot of these top agents. One of the best agents in Northeast Florida, she told me one time, and I know it's 100% true, and she's not the only one. She just feel for whatever reason that day to tell me that, what I'm going to express with you, but I'm sure it resonates with you. When you sit down with these top people, and you ask them a direct question like, what are you doing? What do you think I could do, you know, to improve my business right now? And they give you golden nuggets. You need to not necessarily act, you know, maybe they might give you 3 or 4 and you choose 1 or 2. You don't have to execute on all, but nothing is more insulting to them than they spent time with you, gave you some golden nuggets, say, hey, try this, try that, and you don't actually try it.
Yeah.
Or you know,
or it seems too hard.
Yeah.
Too much effort. You know, which happens all the time. But it's true. If you're going to make the time and effort to reach out to that agent and to ask for their time and to sit with them and spend your time listening to them, you need to act on what they're telling you, because something they're doing is working, and that is so valuable in and itself, you know. And I think that that's so important that I think it's lost a lot of the time.
I want to. You've given so many valuable nuggets here for the last hour and 15 minutes. Agent, you need to make sure your new agents listen to this, and then they go back in, because there's nuggets in every one of the shows. I'm going to just put the presser out there. We talked. I started the show talking about AI and artificial intelligence. You might be a new agent right now and you can't afford a coach. Maybe there's not a mentor available to you, but all this information that I'm putting on my show is it's fed into ChatGPT every day. Transcripts, everything is all in there. And I know I'm not the only one doing it. There's information in there. To go in there and start talking to it about your business as if it's your best friend, because it will come up with creative things for you to do. If you're sitting there and you don't know what to do today, you go to ChatGPT, say, I'm a real estate agent. I need to meet 5 people today and talk to them about real estate, which I know there's some brokerages, that's what they do. That you got to have 5 meaningful conversations a day. Yeah. That's their mission, and hopefully before noontime. Yeah. You know, type of thing. But whatever it is, it will give you feedback. Yeah. Tell it, hey, I got my kid's ball game. I got to go here. Well, it's going to tell you, like we all would, if you told me, I got to meet people. Well, what do you got? Well, I got to drop my kid off at the dance studio. Well, stand there at the dance studio and run into people. Run into the other moms that are coming by, right? Whatever it is, it is a coach for you, but it can get in detail and structure you know what you should be doing on a daily basis, which is going to end up my last question. For you, are you you said you're very busy right now. Mm-hmm. You've got an assistant, so I imagine the two of you have got some time blocking going on. You're scheduling yourself. How are you doing that, especially? Well, right now you've got a lot of buying and selling going on. How are you structuring that day, and how important it is for you to structure that day as if you're working for somebody, but you're actually working for yourself?
Yeah, really, it's about priorities, and like focusing and harnessing in on today. I woke up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. I am at my computer working. What are the 3 things that literally I need to get done before noon? No matter what. I don't care how many calls come in. I don't care how many fires are being set on these transactions that are closing. What are the top 3 most important things that have to get done before any of that stuff happens? Figuring out that is the hardest part, because especially in real estate, that's constantly changing. Yes. And that's always, by 11 o'clock, there are catastrophic implosions of everything happening. So it's difficult to do that, but staying on that, and so that making sure those top 3 things that are important do get done, regardless of whatever the next top 3 most important things are going to be done after that noon deadline, is a struggle even today that I deal with. But it's been a game changer for, honestly, just getting things done. Well,
here's where I think you'll agree with me. The top people said you got to be prospecting every day. So imagine one of those 3 things has something, because you're as successful as you are, has something to do with prospecting in one way, shape, or form. What are some creative things that you throw in there to make sure you're knocking out that prospecting priority every day?
It depends on what the prospecting idea or topic is. You can be, if you're making calls, if you're writing letters, if that's one of your top 3 priorities, then make sure it gets done. You know, like that's kind of, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's a new thing every day that you're just trying out. It doesn't matter, but making sure those top 3 get done is a game changer. It's been a game changer, especially for me and myself, because we have top priorities that are different from each other. Right. So now we're maximizing our time and getting pretty much all the important things that are absolutely critical done before noon even hits. And that's kind of been what's really changed our business completely.
100%. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Anything you'd like to add?
I think we hit a lot of it.
Yes, it was a good show. We definitely could go on for longer, but but I do want you. Don't get up yet. I'm still filming.
Oh, right.
Relax.
My bad.
I do want to have you come back on with one. We'll talk about maybe your 4 people, and we'll choose one and come back on and talk about the mentoring process going on. I think it's important. I don't think enough new agents are searching out that. Why brokerages aren't just like making it happen, as I'm sure John and Brittany encourage it, if not make it a requirement that if you're going to come onto the brokerage, you have to be mentored because you haven't sold a house yet, type of thing. I think it's so important and to try to curve that failure rate in the industry. Because there's enough out there, and I think we're really going to hit a tipping point. I think within the next year where it will be like 2021, because the rates just lower a little bit. We have so many people sitting on the sidelines right now, buyers and sellers. There's sellers that want to move, but they're like, oh, if the rate gets low enough, all right, I'll make the jump now. It's worth it. I've got enough equity in my home. And we know there's a ton of buyers just saying, oh, the rate's a little high right now, but they're gonna jump on it as soon as it hits that tipping point. Yeah.
1,000%.
But once again, I appreciate you coming on. It's a great show.
I appreciate